Hello and welcome back to CKZ. I'm Kent. Along with me is Caitlin and Whitney and Zach. What's going on, guys? How are you tonight?
Twip, twip. What's up, guys?
Doing all right.
We finally get to do a show.
We finally get to do a show.
School's canceled tomorrow.
They just canceled school tomorrow?
With breaking news, we get to start a show.
Yeah.
What was funny was
Hooray.
the district put out maybe like 3 hours ago that Friday we don't have school because of in-service, but the message said something like classes will resume on Monday.
Right.
And so everybody in the comments was like, does that mean Thursday? And so it took a couple hours to catch up, but that was a good time.
Yeah, I guess
Had
they
to be,
could have got away without canceling school today, and but
hindsight's always 20/20. You know, there's a new administration up there, and they don't know. And I mean, they're threatening snowmageddon, 4 to 6 inches.
Median,
you know,
4 to 6 inches.
It looks like it's coming down right now.
It is coming down. You know, it did finally show up. It didn't show up as early as they thought. You know, we were joking around earlier that we thought we were going to have to fire a weatherman or space balloons for delaying.
Always with the space balloons.
Delays of all the shipments, including weather.
So tonight's show, we're not going crazy. We got a few topics to talk about. We don't have a guest tonight. We're just gonna. Well, I guess our guest is technically Whitney, since it's his first show with us.
Yeah,
he's gonna help us do some of the control room stuff, and possibly pop in and give us some opinions here and there.
Yeah, you know, it's always good for us to have more hosts.
They're not necessarily right opinions, but I got opinions.
Yeah. It's a hard gig. You know, we put a lot of time and effort into this, and it doesn't pay very well. So we want to be consistent.
Wait, you guys are getting paid?
Yeah. So, you know, we want to be consistent for our audience, and so we figure the more of us that could go live, even if it's just 2 of us sometimes, you know, we can get it done, and it just gives us more options on a lot of things. So
it'll make it easy to do weekly.
Yeah, easier to do weekly. Life. Yeah, absolutely. We got a new comedian around, you know, to keep us from being so serious. So,
why
Caitlin,
so serious?
So why so serious? All right, so we have to talk about it since it's coming on. DC had a commercial during the Super Bowl. Go Chiefs! All the Chiefs fans out there, woo woo! Got another Super Bowl, 2 in the last 4 years. We're pretty spoiled right now, right?
I mean, can't believe you're not wearing a red right now.
Well, I am wearing red. It's on my feet and other places we won't mention. So I haven't taken my flags down off of my house yet either. I'm the super loud fan. We won, yay! You know, if you're a Chiefs fan, you know the pain that you've had pretty much your entire life. If you're my age, you know, it's been hard. It's been a long road. And so we're living it up, and it's our time. And if you don't like it, oh well. We're going to be loud. We're going to be proud. That's what
it's still going to be
what being a Chiefs fan about. It is, yeah. You know, so
I was a bartender long enough that I'm a fan of whatever hat you're wearing, man.
Yeah, I will say the Super Bowl was the only game I got to watch this season, so I had no expectation or, you know, knowledge of the teams the way I used to, and so I was pretty impressed with the Eagles quarterback and their system.
It was a good game. It was definitely an entertaining one. Nail biter for sure.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Right down to the end.
My blood pressure, you know, I thought I was. I completely
forgot that it was Super Bowl Sunday, so I'm like one of feeling down. Yeah. One of the other ones was my wife.
Yeah. So
it's always our one excuse to make snacks and watch commercials. Yes. The halftime shows are usually fun.
Yes.
This year's was good. I had fun.
The commercials I thought weren't as great as past years. You know.
Okay, so here's what happened, right? YouTube sponsored this year, right? YouTube.
Yes.
And then they're going to start airing the streams on YouTube. And so the commercials were more like YouTube ads. Like there were even
That makes sense.
Yeah, there were even those like your app games that they do that people get sponsored by in the middle of a video when they're sponsors some new game
Sure.
on your phone. And so they wanted you to scan a QR code and stuff, and I was like, oh man, I didn't
Yeah.
sign up to like watch this on YouTube.
I do
Personally,
have the cup.
I'm just so glad that the Hobby Lobby guys were able to spend $200 million on some Jesus ads,
this the
because
Hobby
I
Lobby
personally I was
guys
saved.
on
Like
brand?
I was not a believer, and I saw the commercial, and
Yes.
I was
Has
like,
anyone else been
I should be
harassed
in
on
church.
social media by that same group.
What was that?
Well,
Like I've seen it all over Reddit, all over Facebook. The amount of ads that they've purchased
Oh, yeah,
it's
on the platforms are,
$14 million, I believe, is what they spent on the 3 ads.
On just the Super Bowl.
The 3
Yeah.
ads they ran.
Yeah. It was
You
a
know,
14
and that's-
million.
It
I
was, that's
made
a-
up 200 million. I won't lie.
It was. You wish they would be putting that back into the community and soup kitchens and
well, I mean,
you know
look at
all the
this.
silent things they're supposed to be doing
I
at
didn't realize
churches.
that this was the Hobby Lobby people.
I didn't either.
Is this confirmed the Hobby Lobby people?
Well, I don't think it was the Hobby
Was it?
Lobby
Okay.
people. They may have been
I
involved.
think
but I
the
think it was our larger
founder
group
or whatever
of-
was found to be one of the orchestrators of it.
Okay, so there's probably like some
Okay.
super PAC.
Megan, I'm totally
Right,
with you. That was my next
Okay.
comment.
Exactly.
If they can afford that advertising, they should be paying taxes. That
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
that
was about to say,
was
if this was the Hobby Lobby guy, then that also took money out of his illegal artifacts.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, his artifact smuggling.
yes, yeah. You know, and then Greg brings up Tubi, and I
Oh my
think
God.
that was the greatest commercial of all time, guys. I mean, millions of people. I reached for my controller. My son's all, Dad, it's a commercial, and I'm like, no way! Gosh darn it! You know, like I thought I screwed it up. I thought I hit the button. I thought something. You know what I mean? Like, it was hilarious. Kudos to Tubi for that one. The
So,
Doritos
yeah, good
commercial was
game.
pretty good again. Yeah.
Congrats
was a
to the
great game.
Chiefs. Mahomes did go to Disney World or land. He went to
He did.
Disneyland.
Yeah, and you know, went on the parade. It went through on a parade. Good for him. You know, he's done that
Yeah,
twice
yeah.
now. Oh,
So going on in Garden City, we got a few things going on this week. Legislative coffee, 10 a.m. Saturday, Beth Tedrow building at the college. If you've never been to a legislative coffee, I used to go to them all the time. It's kind of a cool gig. They have an amazing breakfast spread, and you get some breakfast, and then our local representatives get up and tell us a little bit about what they're doing. The Bill Cliffords and the John Dahls, and we got a new one, Bob Lewis. He'll be there. And so they give a little 2-minute speech about what they've been doing, what they've been working on, what their plans are, what bills they're introducing, things like that. And then they take some questions from the audience. And I personally have gotten some very interesting and exciting responses sometimes. Most
Yeah.
specifically, the biggest one that I'm reminded of is asking, not Larry Powell, that's who we ran against. What was his name? It'll come to me. I asked the question about marijuana, medical marijuana, and he made some pretty racist comments that got a lot of media attention. Steve
from
Alford was
Ulysses.
his name.
from Ulysses,
From Ulysses.
right? Yeah.
And but so yeah, it could be an interesting area, and it's a good place to ask questions. I know there's a few things going on in the state that they're pushing for. They're pushing for the specific type of council where they want each state to have its own pure representation, and there be no federal government. And Kansas is one of the states pushing for that, our legislation. And so it would be an interesting event to go to. Anyways, I highly suggest you go. 10 a.m. is when they start talking. I try and get there a little bit early because the breakfast is awesome.
Caitlin, what else is rocking and rolling?
Yep, on
around
Saturday at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Finney County Library. Stupid Cupid Soiree for tweens and teens. Wherever you are on the Valentine spectrum, we'll have treats, crafts, and activities for you to enjoy.
Ooh,
And the library is always doing such cool events
They
for
really
the
do.
kids and going out of their way to make sure that there's something going on for just about every holiday and reason to have something going on you can think of. I know whenever I'm looking for events, I always go to their page, see what they have going on, because there's usually something that we can talk about at the very least. It's always the library or bars. Bars always has something going on too.
That's small town USA for you right there.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So also coming up Saturday, March 11th, which is a
Speaking
push
of bars,
and speaking of bars, but this is a larger event too for Dodge City.
well, no,
it's
this is the fundraiser show.
the fundraiser show
This is
Okay,
a
so-
preparation for it.
for the Gunsmoke Sessions, which is a huge event over in Dodge City. I didn't read all of it, so
Yeah, sorry, I did events, guys, so
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
the details.
yeah, when we say we're off the cuff, we mean it here at CKC. But so yeah, the Gunsmoke Sessions fundraiser show. They're raising funds for the official Gunsmoke Sessions Music Festival that is taking place on April 22nd, 2023. In order to put on a high caliber festival for everybody to enjoy, they need help. They need all the funds they can get to pay our professional sound engineers, venue rentals, bands, performances, and more. And Whitney may be able to talk a little bit more about it here shortly, as this is it's really similar to kind of what the Tumbleweed Festival is. Everyone that comes to this event will be given a raffle ticket upon paying a cover charge at the door. If you wish to up your chances at winning one of the giveaway prizes, they're selling extra raffle tickets for $2 for one or $5 for three. Again, all funds go towards the Gunsmoke Sessions Music Festival, which highlights bands from all over Kansas, of all different makes, sounds, just a enjoyment of the arts in Southwest Kansas. Pretty cool.
Right.
And Hugo Hernandez is in every band in Southwest Kansas and is pretty much the rock and roll scene anyway. But he's a big help
They
with
just
this.
opened for Hairball.
He's the
Yes,
Isn't that cool?
What arena was that?
absolutely. The United
that was in
Wireless
Dodge.
Arena. Yeah, the
Yeah,
United
okay.
Wireless in
Cool.
Dodge. Mhm.
It had a pretty
Yeah.
big turnout. I think it was the biggest band that they played for. I don't know. I don't follow them that close, but man, they're doing it. A little
Yeah.
band from Dodge City, Kansas, is getting big out there, and I think they
Absolutely.
opened for another big band here coming up soon. I don't remember where that's at.
I think that's in Hayes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
We're gonna have
But
Hugo
anyway,
on.
Gunsmoke's a good
We're-
one.
Yeah, we are gonna have Hugo on before Gunsmoke to promote the festival over there. Talk a little bit about what it is. I think it's in its second year now. Maybe the
Right.
music festival is just in its second year. I'm not sure, but anyway, Hugo's gonna be able to tell us more. So we're excited to have him.
So yeah,
DJ
early
says
March
hi,
is the
Auntie.
fundraiser.
That's my sister. I love you, DJ.
Aw. So
Greg asks
We-
what we think about the city town hall meeting concept. I think it's worthless. So they're having it at night, I believe, is what he's talking about. I think
Okay.
it's the first Tuesday of the month at like 7 p.m.
I like it
Every
being at
Tuesday.
night. It's an option for me to go.
Well,
there.
yeah, it's
Is
a
this
town.
like a public discussion, or is this when
I
you all
believe
meet
so.
and discuss the
Well-
municipal budget?
I think what happens is the city council goes on record, but it's quiet. They don't really have any discussion topics. It's whatever is presented to them at the.
sometimes they
At
do
the
have
time,
discussion
by the
topics on them,
community.
but most
It's
of
the
the time
last
it's
2
kind of
minutes.
Like,
Wow,
okay.
because
the last
nobody
2 minutes.
speaks? Is that like, is it an open and close? It's just
Pretty
the
much.
air
It's-
of giving
Yeah, I think you can get up there.
public commentary.
Like, one thing that we do and tend to do is go and speak about fentanyl test strips. at being legalized in our county. The city of Wichita did it. Drugs is not a good problem, and we don't want to promote the usage of drugs, but we want people to be safe. We always want people, we don't want people to die of fentanyl. We don't want kids to die of fentanyl.
Sure.
And legalizing test strips so people know what they're getting, would help tremendously. And so I think that's something that we should do, along with Narcan. There was a post by the Garden City Police Department that really sparked our interest. A couple of falsities were mentioned in that post, and they have since retracted and talked about Narcan and other prevention type methods out there. So kudos to them, but there's more to be done. So yeah, I think that's what that time frame is used and meant for. I'm sorry to go on a rant.
Okay, cool.
Well, I'd like to see us get away from throwing drug addicts in jail and
Agreed.
Yeah.
People on mere possession.
That's not a solution, and it doesn't solve any problems. In fact, it's easier to get addicted to more drugs in jail than it is trying to live your life out on the street.
Yeah.
But there again, you have to have everybody in consensus on what that solution is.
Like
and
I'm a big proponent of restorative justice, and that is
sure, absolutely.
It's hard, even when you're a proponent of it. It can be difficult to get away from that kind of vengeful mindset, or
and it's so easy to put a negative spin on something like safe injection sites. Just just saying it sounds horrible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the concept behind it can save thousands of lives every year.
Right. It's not like we don't have the data or science on.
Right.
On what
And
it
it's
does for
just it's been politicized, and so because
And-
it's so easy to spin, it's like saying defund the police, and the implication is made that so there's no police anymore, and
Right.
completely disregarding the fact that it means spending more money on social services, not just brutality services.
Like, I agree with the thing. I do think that was a bad labeling choice.
Sure. They set it up.
They set it up for failure with that.
But that's the whole thing. Is that's the democratic model is to postulate the correct thing, but say, well, we tried, but they don't like that idea. Meanwhile, having the absolute worst ways to enforce those ideas. I say it all the time, and I'll say it one more time. The left wing and the right wing are attached to the same dodo bird, hellbent on extinction. Okay, so on that dismal note, let's get into some topics.
Before we move along onto our topics, we have a commercial we'd like to play for you. And that was Buckman's best behaviors. We had a long conversation about it a week ago. It was bestial. Buckman bestial.
Because that was when I was sometimes you can try to be too smart for your own good, and I know what that word means, but everybody has different connotations, and I was like, I'm gonna I think cats and parrots and stuff too. Then means all of them. Sure. So I'm like, okay, I'll change the name. But I want the alliteration.
So before we move on to our topic, Desiree had a great comment, and I wanted to share that. It's all about the money. When you get a drug charge, they make you take classes. That costs, put you on probation. That costs. They make thousands off addicts, and none of it gets any help. I personally have attended these classes that she's referring to, and not only was it not helpful, it was blatant lies, a lot of it, and it was made out to be that hard drugs are the problem, and it completely disregarded the fact that smoking kills more people every year than any other drug, and it's completely legal. Alcohol is a very close runner-up to that, and if you include DUI accidents, it actually beats tobacco.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking about disease-related deaths.
Yeah. And honestly, every study that I've heard of with regards to addiction and things always points to socialization is actually the key to get somebody better. Even when they did it with rats. Like they had an experiment where they got them addicted. I can't think it was cocaine. Or heroin.
It was cocaine, yeah.
Cocaine.
And then when they put them in isolation, they could never get over their addiction. But as soon as they put them in what they called the rat,
the stimulation area,
rat apartment, and they had like a lot of rats to socialize with, then even when they were addicted, they chose not to go get the the cocaine water. They just were like, no, I'd rather play and hang out with my friends. So it's they need more social acceptance, really social acceptance with the whole situation.
Sure.
And isn't the Portugal model like 20 or more years old at this point with rehabilitation?
Most of the there's a lot like in other countries, even in Denmark and stuff, that have had a much better outcome kind of situation. But if somebody doesn't want to get better, they're not going to. So forcing them into a program like that, let me meet that. Forcing them into a program like that is not going to help. It's just going to, as Desiree pointed out, it just creates a financial complex. I want to say I saw something about it regarding, it was one of those great shows, the exposés that talked about all those rehab programs that just take tons of money from government stuff and from rich people to basically make resorts, but they claim that they're rehabilitation centers, and the owners of them make hundreds of millions of dollars.
I mean, just my own personal experience was the most minor of offenses, and it cost me $3,000 in probation to go through all the classes and everything. And I can't even imagine what it is with some serious offenses like DUIs and things like that, tens of thousands of dollars. And if it costs you $10,000 to get a DUI plus you got some help in the end, maybe there's an argument to be had there. But I don't know. There's so many aspects of our society that don't have a solution because it's allowed to be motivated by profit, and as long as profit is the ultimate goal, and everything else is secondary, that's always going to be what drives everything, and the care itself is always going to be minimal.
Well,
take any aspect of our society, and that's the problem.
We can't get away from for-profit prisons either, and there's an example of it really close to home here in Garden City, over in Burlington, Colorado. There was a private prison located there, and they're now closed because of all the corruption that was going on.
And that's the most annoying part, though, is it's every aspect of society. We are the most obese nation and dies at the most rapid rate of obese-related diseases. And we know it's a direct result of the sugar industry and its capitalization on society. And we know that, but it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Also, on the back end of that, the insulin industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So they're making money off of you coming and going. No matter what, they're making money. And so they don't care if you die in the end. Yeah. They don't. If you don't have the money to pay for the drug, you die. And they just go on to the next source.
I will point out that sugar intake does not lead to diabetes, though. So that is actually genetic.
Well, I'm just saying that the sugar industry in the 80s took over the food pyramid and all of that. We subsidized the corn industry, which is a direct subsidiary of the sugar industry because everything's made with corn syrup, not actual sugar.
Oh yeah,
and it's just a feedback loop of money. And I'm sorry, we can get into I'm not trying to get into the exact science of everything. I'm just saying we have a lot of health issues in our society, and most of those health issues are preventable if you had something like universal health care. where the motivation isn't profit, the motivation is a healthy society.
Well, yeah, that's always the difference between people try to make, and that's why I hate it when like service industries, there's somebody comes out and then they try to put a spin on it where they're like, oh, it's losing money. Like this comes up with like say the post office all the time. Like it's not supposed to make money. It's supposed to just be a net zero thing. Like it's a service.
Right.
It's not supposed to be making profit. It's just supposed to be.
You know how long it's been since the military's generated a profit?
Yeah, exactly. But then some services, like social service type things like that, get viewed at and look like they are trying to put under this, as you would say, we would say like a capitalistic lens when they shouldn't be, because it's just supposed to support and maintain and give this thing to the community. That's it. Like it's not supposed to be making money. It's not supposed to be doing all these other things. It's just supposed to keep the gears going.
And I love that the other argument is always like, how do you fund this other thing then? And it's like, I mean, the money is there if we would do the correct things, and we've proven over and over again how to get it. Yeah.
We've like given like 87% of the budget we spent on the war in Iraq has already been given to Ukraine. If we want to spend the money, it's there. We can find the money. It's just a matter of what the ultimate goal is. And Stanley clearly has opinions about that. The Wheatons are angry.
But I mean, in here in Kansas, when we just got when we were funded for more hospital beds in mental health institutions, but we're not given the budget to make sure that those hospitals can be properly staffed. So there's no, like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Our priorities are all mixed up, you know, which brings us to our next conversation.
We're shooting down aliens and not even talking about it. And we are still talking about that fucking Chinese balloon. Who gives a shit? It was a balloon. We all have a goddamn Chinese tracker right here, and some of us take the extra step to download TikTok to make sure we give them a direct feed of everything they could possibly want.
Not me. You ain't catching me on TikTok.
I really thought a bit about this.
Why are we still talking about the balloon?
Was the balloon moving inland, or was it moving out of our territory?
It was first spotted in Montana.
Yeah, it came across. They think it came from the Pacific. Well, actually, we know because of wind patterns, it came from the Pacific. It went clearly across the whole U.S.
And they waited until it was this close from our boundary, right? To be allowed.
Yeah, they waited until it was like outside of Florida.
What they were waiting for was so that the thing is,
South Carolina,
thing was the size of like 4 or 5 buses.
Yes. Okay, it was gigantic.
If you fell down in a populated area, it was going to be a problem.
That on top of they wanted to know what it was doing exactly, and they wanted to see what was going on with it.
All they wanted was just to make sure that it fell someplace safe. That's all.
Okay, that makes sense.
So they blew it up over water, so that way, chances of one of those giant chunks hitting somebody and pulling it. Oh, what was that movie? Donnie Darko. Doesn't happen. That's all that was. But like, everyone's making this huge deal. Like, this balloon tech is not new. Like, maybe some of the stuff on it, of course, is probably new. But my thing is,
I'm pretty sure balloons are an old technology.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the food, like technically, the only time the U.S. ever got like carpet bombed on mainland was from a balloon operation. Although the government kept it super secret, partly because what they wanted was the Japanese to not realize that they actually succeeded. They launched a whole bunch of balloons that then not many people got hit, but it did hit a few areas at that time. But like, that was like, they've even perfected it more so now with weather patterns and tracking.
The jet stream, and that's what that balloon followed was the jet stream.
The thing is, like, we have how many satellites going above?
Yeah.
And the thing is, so my dad worked on those satellites, those spy satellites. We've been able to take a picture of a dime on a sidewalk from a satellite since the 80s. This is old stuff. So the only reason they use balloons is because it's harder to track on radar. Because basically, you have to fine tune the radar to look for this thing that doesn't give off much signal. Which then, when you fine tune it, means you're not scanning the bigger picture. So if a jet comes by, you're basically looking at a smaller area. Does that make sense?
But you can understand why everybody is so skeptical. The government still claims that this was a weather balloon to this day. Still says that this was a weather balloon. I mean, it makes sense why people are skeptical.
I don't think that was like aliens, but I do think that there was some tech that they were keeping hush hush, which is normal. I don't know.
Again,
I grew up from a different perspective, living at Fort Meade growing up. So, which is, for those that don't know, that's NSA, where the NSA headquarters is here in the U.S. It's right outside of D.C. But anyway, I just don't see we like to make these bigger ideas on it, and I think it's just seriously. Usually, we just want them to know that we know that they know.
The bigger story to me is they're still talking about the Chinese balloon that they shot down over Montana, or off the coast of South Carolina. They found it in Montana. But during the Super Bowl, there was 3 other objects, and they are specifically calling them objects, not balloons.
Redefine the name,
They shot down 3 of them. He said, "I'm not going to categorize them as balloons. We're calling them objects for a reason. Certainly, the event off South Carolina coast for the Chinese spy balloon was clearly a balloon. These were objects." He made a very clear differential there, and this is a different topic at this point.
Sometimes they say that because they don't know, and they're not going to be caught on record making it
right. But this is the general for NORAD, though. You don't speak lightly in that position.
Right. And he also said basically they knew it was something that's just floating because it was only going the speed of the wind. It wasn't like moving on its own accord, and which also is what makes hard to find by jet, because if you're going Mach by something and it's just standing still, you only have like a split second to see
They also described it as a cylindrical and silverish gray with no identifiable propulsion system. Good Lord, I'm going to get all tongue-tied. And there was another one that was shot down, and then there was another one that was an octagonal structure with strings on it, but they're saying that they don't know if it had a propulsion system or not.
They know it wasn't moving; it was moving with the wind in one.
Well, even one of the pilots gave an interview I read somewhere that said it was moving in a way that would have to have a propulsion system, just to be floating the way it was.
Well,
right.
It's just the same one, because they have UFOs all the time, and that does happen. I mean, but usually it's some tech from another country that just kind of basically drone technology.
I do want to clarify a point Zach said. He said 3 before the Super Bowl. There was only one before the Super Bowl that happened over like a Thursday, Friday, and then Sunday, I believe. Is how it happened. There was one in Alaska.
Yeah. No, I was talking about the announcement was happening during the Super Bowl.
For the one in
about these objects.
The one in
the third one had been shot down during the Super Bowl, and they were doing their little announcement about it prior to the Super Bowl. They were doing their little announcement during the Super Bowl. My point is they decided to talk to us about this while they knew 99% of America wasn't paying attention.
That's pretty classic. That's a classic maneuver.
That's what I would say.
Again, if they don't want us to be suspicious, don't be suspicious.
Don't be suspicious.
Here's one of the other factors. This is a factor that happens in the intel industry. The stuff that they give to the newspapers is purposefully false because. And it's not because they're trying to trick the American people, but yes, the American people will spread the lie and they're fine with that. But half the time it's also because they want to trick who they suspect is on the other side. For example, one time the Kangaroo place I worked at in Georgia ended up as a possible target for a Al Qaeda attack, I think it was back in like 2007 or something like that. We were on this list that was given by the government. The thing is, they have an internal list and they have an external list. And the external list is to create false ideas for agents of the other side. Does that make sense? Like, basically, they purposely put false information out into the world to make the other side think that they don't know that we know that they don't. It's a stupid game. And also to kind of guide them to go after stuff that they want them to try.
I mean,
Right
isn't
now,
that
I'm
how
more-
remote viewing happened? Like,
Yeah.
France put out that Russia was doing remote viewing studying, and then the United States was like, oh, well, we got to catch up. But the Russians weren't doing that. And then once
Yes.
the Russians found out that the United States was doing that, they were like, well, now
And that's
we've got
Cold
to
War.
do that. And
What
then-
I'm worried about right now is that us going back into a Cold War thing, only this time instead of Russia, it's going to be China. And because, I mean, that's what happened. Like the thing with over Hawaii, the laser beams getting shot by the, well, I shouldn't say shot because it's not actually going to do damage, but it creates a nice light show above Hawaii where they're calibrating their laser systems on the satellite going above. But the question is, why did they purposely choose Hawaii right when it was over there to do the calibration? It's just, it could have been a posturing thing. Maybe it was just a happenstance, but you have a huge portion of the ocean that it could have gone over where nobody would have seen that array testing. But they did it over one of the super smallest islands, and it perfectly was visible to people on land. So
Well, it just gives. I
I
think there's a lot of drive right now to invest in space war.
Yeah.
You know, getting weapons built in space, and so we have all this.
Stephen Hawking did say that if we were to encounter another species, if they're anything like us, it's most likely best to assume they're hostile. And
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not saying we should.
Yeah,
And we would
fight.
be
our
the
own
same.
history points to that.
Just to move the conversation along a little bit, the reason I wanted to talk about aliens first is because it creates. This is a fun way to talk about ways we don't trust our government to tell us the truth, and
Right.
there are times that the government doesn't tell us the truth, and it leads to serious disaster. And if you don't know what we're talking about the train wreck that happened in Palestine.
Ohio.
East Palestine, Ohio. East
Yeah.
Palestine.
Yeah, and so initial reports were talking about there was a 1 mile danger zone that needed to be evacuated, and within 24 hours there was a 10-mile radius that saw dramatic, dangerous effects: wildlife dead, outdoor animals dead, larger animals respiratory issues, humans respiratory issues. That's within in the first 48 hours of this happening, and the local governments gave an all clear, said,
Yep.
You guys are good.
It was
Bye.
5 days later. It was February 3rd is when the accident happened, and then February 8th is when they said they could return to their homes.
Right.
Right. You know, and they haven't been tested yet. And the type of chemicals that were spilt do require testing. There's serious chemicals that were spilt. One was vinyl chloride. Which, if you don't know, it's a color. Yeah, it's a colorless gas with a sweet odor. It's used to make a variety of plastic
It's a
products such as pipes.
plastic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Learn about
wire
it in
coatings,
last night.
flooring. A lot of people know it as PVC. You know what brings your
This
drinking
place was
water
on its
in,
way to be
sewage
turned into
pipes.
PVC and those plastic pellets that are used to make plastic products.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when that stuff burns, it goes under combustion and reacts with oxygen in the air to produce carbon dioxide and water vapor. And the reason it creates those things
binds
is
with
that's
water
what it
vapor.
has to stick to. It has to bind to water vapor.
Well, it's
Right.
not just creating that. That is two of the things, but it also creates a chlorine gas, which
Yeah,
Chlorine gas.
hydrogen chloride. You know, carbon monoxide
Well-
is also formed.
I'm,
Um,
I'm not, I'd have to look into the chemistry to see if it actually creates it might actually create chlorine gas, which chlorine gas is mustard gas.
So before the
Yeah.
show, I was reading up a little bit just to try and sound somewhat smart. And from what it in a gaseous form becomes hydrochloric acid, which bonds with water. And in the 90s, in our textbooks, they always talked about how acid rain was a big problem in the big cities, and you just didn't hear about it anymore. And I assume it was something that cleared up when they took care of like the ozone layer and things in the 90s. That was a big push for it, and so acid rain wasn't near as. But all the local scientists are saying that this is going to result in hydrochloric acid rain, and that's just going to be detrimental. Absolutely, there's
Not
no
just
way,
to the area,
way around
but-
it.
Well,
It's-
we know that this is a carcinogen. We know it is.
Oh yeah,
Right.
these people will
I
have
think-
cancer. It's not about if; it's just when.
Yep. I think 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a skyrocket in the area.
Absolutely. And the question is the government going to take care of these companies? Local reports
Or-
right now are saying that the train company in charge is offering residents a $25,000 settlement right off the bat to help them get through it.
Jesus.
$25,000 a person. Hey,
So-
we
And
know this
I don't
sucks.
think we've stated the issue here is that the company that was transporting this deliberately labeled it as non-hazardous, right?
No, it was labeled as hazardous. No.
Okay.
Here's where the real issue comes up and why we're going to run it. Because this particular line of train in the past year has had 5 derailments.
Okay.
yeah.
Since
Well-
2018, from 2018 to 2020, they have been deregulating the railway industry to make it easier and cheaper for them to run this stuff. And apparently,
Right.
the unions have been vocal about it for the past like 3 or 4 years.
That's
So
one
the
of the
train
reasons they were
company-
striking.
Multiple
Yes.
2 miles of train. Guess how many engineers? How many people are actually watching that?
3.
2.
2 were
And
on
the
that
tr-
one?
Yeah,
Wow.
and that's because the union fought for it. The train company wants 1 engineer per like multiple mile of train. So basically, lack of maintenance of the rail structure, lack of employment because they're working those who they can to the bone. I mean, we just had that railroad worker strike literally 3 months ago.
Yeah, something like that. Was
And
very...
but all this, they started deregulating them in 2018 because lobbyists were starting to win and getting them put their stuff pushed through to make the railways more profitable. That's what's leading to this, and I guarantee you, it's not going to be the last. So as far as like who's going to be in trouble, nobody, because we got rid of the regulation, so nobody technically did anything wrong.
And that's the whole thing of it is they've already washed their hands of it and already saying,
Yeah.
hey, we took care of it, and they're walking away from it. And that's the accidents happen, These plastic is obviously a part of our life. These chemicals have to move. I'm not saying that, but everybody's already forgotten about why the railroad strikers didn't get to complete their strike and get what they wanted. Why?
Yep.
They were stronger.
Because Joe Biden said, I support unions, but I'm stopping this strike because we got to move along. We got to get the dollars moving. It's all about the money. It's the money, Lebowski.
Well, and I know things don't happen overnight, but we just passed one of the largest infrastructure bills in U.S. history.
And it's not
and-
like it's. I'm sorry. I just complete that thought real quick. It's not like these railroad companies are struggling right now. They just reported a session of, I think it was like $45 billion, not in profits but in sales. That's big numbers. That is not a struggling company. That is not
Do you
the inability.
think
And they just did massive stock buybacks.
Do you think companies should be allowed to do stock buybacks? Should there be a penalty around it if they do?
Well,
do you
if
feel about that?
capitalism worked like capitalism
I
says
think-
it's supposed to work, then
These businesses need to be put into certain categories as to how essential their business is. If it were to drop off the face of the planet right now, it would be chaos for so many businesses, and it needs to be put in a category where you have to maintain certain things. Us taxpayers built the railroad system that they make money off of us from. And granted, it was not built by the most reasonable means, but America built that, and they're profiting off of it, and they have a responsibility to the railroad to maintain these things, and they're just not doing it. And there needs to be massive consequences. Like, in my opinion, if you cause a mini Chernobyl in the country you're allowed to operate in, you don't get to be a company anymore. You're dissolved. You were negligent, because it's not like they didn't talk about this happening. They did. Many times they talked about the potential for this. They said we weren't doing the proper safety inspections. They were trying to cut it down to a minute when it needed to be at least 3. And that's why they were striking. One of the reasons. Also sick pay. Also time off. The burnout in this industry is insanely dangerous. And they need to compensate these guys. Did we lose Whitney? Did his internet go out?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Weird. Anyway, yeah. So, final thought. We didn't even talk about Arizona. Just real quick, Arizona had a chemical spill too. I think it was 2 days ago, just right outside of Tucson.
Was
they
that
had
a
to stay at
derailment?
home.
I didn't hear about that one.
No, it was a semi that overturned.
Okay.
Have you seen the
that had-
videos with the gold gas? Basically, I mean, it's like sunflower
Yeah.
yellow colored,
Mhm.
acidic.
It was a pretty bad deal. The stay-at-home order went on down there. There's just a lot of things going on right now, and I feel like there's a lot of things to distract us from the other things that are going on, and I think that's something.
We also
that
had a school
Americans-
shooting again this week, and
We
man,
did
that was
in
just a blip
Michigan
on the
State.
radar.
That was well, we're so desensitized.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah, to mass
desensitized
shootings.
to it anymore.
To
After
mass
Uvalde,
shootings.
how does
You
it
guys
get
see
worse
one
than
of the worst things
Uvalde
about that
anymore?
shooting
If it's not
in-
that bad, it's just it's good news.
We're literally going to be fighting aliens
No.
soon, guys.
We got no
That's
sound
what-
from you, Whitney.
No, I can
Yeah.
hear you, Whitney, just fine.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, there we go.
All right. My internet gremlins decided that StreamYard was not allowed to talk to me for like a little bit. It was working, but
It's weird.
just StreamYard. Anyway, one of the worst things is like some of the survivors from that shooting were survivors from the school
I
in
saw
Florida
that.
and the school in Ohio
I saw that.
that got
Wow.
shot. So
Really?
this is like their second school shooting that they've had
Yeah.
to survive through.
That's just
And
an
so they
everyday
lost-
part of life.
Yeah.
And
anymore.
we're gonna
Like-
expect these kids to be productive citizens
Yeah.
and not traumatized children. And
They're going to
Anyway.
be working from home.
all right.
Which
Before we
could-
move on to our next topic, let's give a word from our sponsor, and we got some local news to talk about.
Let's do it. Uh-oh.
Oh.
I guess I'm the one that's supposed to click the button.
Yeah, you're the clicker.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just sitting here waiting.
Who's in charge of this
Oh,
show?
goodness.
here we go.
Guys,
Word from
this
our-
isn't a podcast. It's just a few dragons in a trench coat. I'm telling you.
Yes.
We have no idea what we're
Shiny
doing.
That is. That's so shiny and beautiful. Like, yeah. Ooh, shiny.
I got a 3D printer and I've been having fun.
Yes.
I need to re-up my Makerspace membership because I want to do 3D.
Do they have a printer there?
They have okay, let's advertise for that.
Yeah.
Makerspace. They have a
Yeah.
bunch of printers that you can use if you're a member, and then also they even have resin printers, which
Wow.
that gets super fine detailed. Like you
Oh,
can get
yeah.
a mini with like the eyeballs showing up, and it'll be it's
That's
fantastic.
so cool. I've done woodwork
Yeah.
there before.
Yep.
So
And they
And
have a
then,
sewing machine that stitches. They have one of those like. Well, of course, sewing machine that stitches. Duh.
embroidery.
They have an embroidery room.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Like you put in what you want, the design you want from the computer, and it will make it like perfect on the whatever design you're trying to patch onto.
That's cool. What's a membership there cost?
Oh, good question. I got get the full family, like everybody in your household can go. It's like $70 a month. I think there's like a $40 a month or something like that. But for all
Sorry,
the
I
equipment
reacted
that
there.
you
I
have
did not mean
access
to.
What was that?
Said,
What's that
sorry, I
picture?
reacted
I
there, and I did
remember
not mean to.
Pays
Oh,
for a
yeah.
lot of
It sounds
materials.
expensive.
They have it,
Yeah.
Yeah, 70 a month is a lot. That,
Well,
whew.
the amount of you have a full woodworking with like you have an etching machine, you have access to a lot of equipment that's for what you're paying. It is.
Whitney, I have access to 1,000 video games. That don't mean I have time.
That is the thing. That is the biggest.
Don't talk about my Steam addiction. Don't look at my Steam addiction.
All right,
And with that,
commercials.
we'll be.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds
So-
like the internet snow gremlins are bouncing from household to household.
I know.
Yeah.
I think they got
You're
Whitney
still a little
again. You held
choppy,
the
but you're not too
Frankenstein.
bad.
You held the Frankenstein position for a moment. Yeah.
It's the
thriller.
Yes.
Abruptly stop. It's the snow gremlins.
Oh yeah, that happened to us earlier today too. I forgot about that.
You know, I don't know.
So-
I've been doing some streaming outside of this show, and I think StreamYard, the quality of it's not as good as it used to be. You know, I kind of makes me sad because I love it and what it does and the capabilities of it. Restream just doesn't go out to as many places. I really don't like the idea of the OBS inversion. I'd rather have it separated
we
personally.
can talk
you know.
about that later. Restream
Yeah,
actually
that's a
has
whole
three
nother
times-
subject, but
3 times as many location partnerships than StreamYard does now.
yeah. Anyhow,
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm adding. I realized the graphic wasn't there that I put in earlier, or meant to.
okay.
Okay, so it's there now.
So
I wanted to talk a little bit more about the Star Bond and the incomplete projects with that are. So recently, I was told that they're moving dirt out there, and apparently, moving
Again.
dirt has been a term
Most
that's been
times.
thrown around a few times now. Back in October, they were excited that the project is moving dirt so that this allows them to have sales tax exempt they were expecting to receive when the project initially got underway. So back in October, they voted to continue to allow this project to be tax exempt while they build the project. And I'm assuming that's supposed to extend into a little bit after it opens. This currently extends into October of 2025. Mind you, this is a project that was paid for back in 2020, was put on suspension.
2017.
Uh,
It was 2017.
well,
It's
they-
been 5
it was
years,
voted
5,
for-
6 years.
It was voted for and approved, and the money was and it was supposed to start in 2020, and they put
okay.
it on suspension in 2021 because of the Cecil and Sammy fight that still continued to go on. But it's amazing to me that they still haven't gotten anywhere on this project because Sammy is currently building the new sports bar because that's what we need in Garden City is another sports bar. We don't have enough of
Cajun.
these. What is it called? Walk-ons or some bullshit like that. Sorry.
Cajun restaurant, frozen
So
seafood.
sick of sports.
I love Cajun. So.
Hey, I love
Sacrifice so much
Cajun
for sports.
crab and sports. So I'm a
Sure,
sucker for walk-ons.
if they can run it, great. If it's good food, great. I hope the best for it. Garden City needs another restaurant, and we don't have anything Cajun. I'd love to see it be successful, but we're not building housing to bring in quality people to work jobs that are things like bartenders and retail workers. If they don't have an affordable place to live, the quality ones are going to move somewhere where they can have affordable quality place to live.
I would love to
It's
be
just a
a
fact.
fly on the wall of those conversations where they never bring up, "Hey, can we staff this place in a location
Yeah,
like
it's
here?"
never a conversation, but we don't go out to eat much anymore. Since the pandemic times, we stopped going out to eat because it's a miserable experience sometimes, and
It is.
it's such a gamble. And then when we go out of town, it's mind-boggling. I had a doctor's appointment in Wichita and went to Spangles for lunch, and the general manager brought me my food. I was on crutches at the time. They insisted that they carry it out. It just things that would never ever I'm just happy here if the order is right. And I'm not mad at the workers.
Right,
They're
we're
not
not
paid
shitting
enough
on
to
you.
care. They don't make enough money to give a
Yep.
shit about my $5 meal or whatever
Yep.
it is. And that's my bigger
And I don't want to
point is,
complain because I know you don't make enough.
Yeah.
we're growing so fast. It concerns me with our ability to support these projects. And I'm just concerned that, yes, it's always bright and shiny when it's new, but it becomes so
Right.
dilapidated
Right.
and unkept when we don't have the proper infrastructure. I'll throw names out there. I'll use Old Chicago as an example. When it first opened, it was top notch, and now it's just any crappy restaurant and garden. It doesn't hold up to the bar. But it's not. That's not the model of an Old Chicago. It's just the Garden City Old Chicago. This is what sports complex is supposed to look like. It's gonna have tennis courts, basketball courts, ping. It's gonna have a little bit of everything. And look at that
Soccer
massive parking
fields.
lot. And it's going to be supposed to bring in all kinds of league tournaments and things like that. It's supposed to be a big money maker. Again,
Trampoline
who's going
park.
to work there?
That's
Yeah.
I mean, I get into this conversation on a regular basis. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah,
you sound
yeah,
great.
perfect.
Checking. Okay, yeah. Okay, just switched mics. So, the main thing is like the as you said, the housing issue. Like people complain. What was it? I got told one time. People were saying, "Oh no, it has to do with the everybody on." Well, during the pandemic, they blamed the unemployment or whatever. And then I found out the total number in all Finney County on unemployment was like 15 people. That's it. But there are like 3,000 job openings.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, there's like 3,000 job openings. I'm like, that's not it. And then then I found a report from like the Telegram from 2019 that showed that our housing had dropped by it never went up. It always dropped every year for like 20, 30 years because, as you said, they let it just rot away. So these houses just kind of eventually we're losing more than we build.
What's
And
that
we're
new building
expecting
that's
the
coming in
economy
with
to
the
grow.
clock? It's supposed to have apartments and whatnot in it.
Yeah, so
That's gonna
that
be
is
$1,000 a month apartments. There's gonna be more
Yeah,
space for offices and
$1,000
restaurants and
apartments
stupid
are the
shit
new
we don't need.
$500 apartments.
It'll
You know.
it'll hold 200. It'll hold 200 people, I believe, or 250. 200 people or 250. I gotta double check.
Oh,
I
so
think
it's just a
200 people or
blip.
250
It's
people.
not even a percentage point.
And then it's gonna have like offices and restaurants on the bottom. It's gonna be one of those
Because
like, kind of
we don't have
community
enough empty
concept.
commercial properties in Garden
Yeah.
City as it is,
Here's the
including the
thing,
little
what-
strip mall across the street that it's going in from.
What kind of
it's
tenants
just
are we housing too? Because there are
on
no
two
spaces
sides.
for
Well-
families like mine where there are 5 people and we need more bedrooms and
Well,
like,
as Kent said, I think it's only gonna. I think it's going to be like $1,000 to $1,500 a month, and I think it's going to be like maybe 2 bedrooms.
Yeah.
Is what it's going to be.
Yeah,
I don't
it's-
know. I haven't seen I say that without seeing the floor plans of the apartment.
sure. I'm just like, do
numbers
you
that
want
they
us to
stated.
raise kids here or not? Because
Right.
it doesn't feel like
Yeah.
you
We
want
are
us to raise
great.
kids here.
Yeah.
We do an excellent job in Garden City of training professionals, but we don't incentivize them at all to stay. There's no
Actually,
reason
we
to want to stay here.
Garden City is really good at attracting professionals too, because like I'm not from here. I moved here for the zoo job, but basically It has a very high millennial population, especially
Because it's
Kansas,
great for
one of the
resume
highest.
building. Because you can live here for 2 years, put it on your resume, whether you're a doctor doing your residentials or whatever, because you can get on, no problem, because we're desperate for those people. I can't remember the
Right.
last doctor visit I went to in Southwest Kansas where they didn't say, "Do you mind if a college student comes in or if a intern comes in or whatever?" And I never care. I'm not mad about that at all. I'm just saying, is that person going to live in Garden City once they're done?
Well, I can
No,
tell
they're
you that
not.
we don't have any locally employed anestheticians. They all come from outside of this community.
But all of
Well,
this
that's gonna have to, because I mean,
Sure, I get
where
that's
are they
an
gonna learn?
extremely
That's
but it's
That's
sort
like
of
the zoo people. All
Sure.
the zoo people come from out of town.
I made the comment on the city's page the other day. They were
Right,
advertising for all these job spots they have open, and one of those spots was a zookeeper, and it was like 15 to 21 an hour. My comment was, I cannot believe I make more without an education than a educated zookeeper. Like went to school
Give
for
me a
this.
couple
That's
beers.
insane.
Give me a couple beers and I'll destroy the entire zoo industry as far as how they treat employees. But yeah, no.
My point is to the greater thing, though. We did this star bond. We
Right.
said we were going to put a stoplight over at that where they put a four-way stop in. We never did that. It's going to forever be a four-way stop.
Just wondering
Apparently,
what was going to happen with that. Is that what they're doing now? Okay.
apparently that's where they're stopping there. Because that was
they're
2
blaming the
years ago.
state. They're blaming the state as far as why that hasn't been
I was
done
just-
because it's on their end to complete.
Is this kind of like one of the?
I just tried for an hour to do research on anything, any kind of an update on it, and that's why I didn't talk very much about it because there's nothing on it. You can find about the Jenny Barker expansion, and that's the last thing that was talked about it. But man,
Yeah,
we
they say
got
it's all
that
coming
pew
up.
pew range. We got that gun range built so fast you could pew pew all day long. It is beautiful. It's immaculate. It's built to spec. They didn't cut a single corner on it. The zoo, they got that
Yeah,
built
have you
real
guys ever
quick,
been there?
but they cut a ton of quarters on it. And they didn't
They-
get exactly what they advertised.
They-
And I think the vet facility was cut in half.
But we got a nice enclosure on
Our
the carousel.
priorities in this city are insane. I was assured that there's no fuckery going on with the funds itself, though, because apparently there was a whole board that was elected, and that's their job is to make sure that those funds are being spent properly. And I looked over the names of it, and I didn't see any names that scared me.
Speaking
with
of
the- I will say
elections
with the-
and boards,
Oh.
family
let Whitney finish his
crisis. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I will be a devil's advocate between like the thing that involved the four-way stop versus the gun range. The gun range that we didn't have to really do anything with a partnership. It was all them. We owned the land. We owned everything. Unfortunately,
Oh,
with
yeah,
roads,
because they have been trying to find a way to fund that gun range for 30 years.
Oh, I'm sure, but
As soon as there was an opportunity, they were like, bam, here's the blueprints, here's the land we've set aside
So
for
is that
it.
one of those
We've
things
got
with, like,
this.
tacked on like the way that like legislation goes down in the federal realm where there's like here's the purpose but the bill's this long, so you're like just stuffing it with
Mhm.
shit that's rewarded to other people
I-
except for us.
I just got alerted about something. So how long do you think it'll be till our next mass shooting?
Tomorrow morning.
10 minutes ago?
1
We're
hour
late.
ago. 1 hour ago, 10 minutes ago. We're late. It already has
We're
happened.
late.
El Paso.
It already
Mall.
has happened. Yeah.
It already happened. It just happened while we're broadcasting and talking about the last mass shooting.
Mhm.
Sorry.
And we
just
get
had
a
to bring
sigh
it up.
about
sure
it
did.
and ready to
Right.
move on already. That's just how, I mean, it's just, that's just life in America. You're very likely to
There's
die
this-
by a gun.
There's this compassion fatigue issue
It
too, where
is.
you don't have
Yeah.
the mental space. It's like you just
Desensitization.
you want
We're
to.
desensitized
Yeah,
to it.
But you
Yeah.
want
And
to
that's-
like mourn for all of these situations, but your brain can't handle.
But you don't have the energy anymore. Yeah.
If you want to stay sharp out there, I mean, I grew up in the country. We just went
Yeah,
out
there-
to
we
the
don't- you don't
ditch
need
and we
a-
shot. We didn't need
yeah.
a range. We didn't
Literally
need a
cans in the ditch.
we didn't need a target. That's how we recycled. We shot
Yep.
cans and bottles.
Yeah, and that's a hard. It's part of the reason why we haven't gone weekly, live weeklies, because there's just so much going on, and it's hard to keep up with everything that's going on, and
Right.
you just get tired of it. Locally, nationally, and in the world, nobody knows what's going on right now. I mean, aliens, guys.
That's why I put Venom out
Yeah.
today, because the world is just
For aliens.
it's got this ooze on it that makes us show the worst of us all the time.
Yeah, we should be
It
enjoying.
just oozes into the fabric
time
of our
here.
society.
Yeah, we create so much nonsense. Final thoughts, Caitlin?
Yeah.
What you got?
I'm glad we're back. That was
Yeah.
but also the viewership response to us explaining why things have been a little difficult to live
yeah.
stream. So thank
Yeah,
you.
you guys have been very
your
patient.
understanding and
It's a great
Yeah.
post.
and returning to view us as well. So
And if you felt like that post was very elegantly worded, that's all Caitlin. We have no credit on that.
She's like, I'm gonna make a post, and we read it. And we're like, oh,
And if you hated it, at me. I dare you.
yeah, right. We'll fight you. We'll fight you for it. Whitney, you got any
Tenderloin's
final
got a
thoughts?
last thought. Mass shooting
Oh, there
doesn't
we go.
mean anything
No.
anymore. Yeah, well, when they
Start
happen
killing
daily,
people.
it doesn't have the punch it
Technically-
once did. Sorry,
All-
Whitney, I cut you off.
Mass shooting is anything that has mass shooting. Technically, is anything that I believe involves 5 people or more. So
Five
and that's
people or
been the
more being
definition
shot, not
for
dead.
decades. Yeah, it just means 5 people, more than 5 victims, and then it's a mass shooting. That's
Right.
sure, but I think
because
it's,
all those other stipulations are too difficult.
But
to
Chicago.
we make sure
Always
that
just say
we correctly categorize it as targeted shooting, because like you said, that some of them are not just random, some of them are
And then what do you do with the
different
ones that we never
intentions.
find out because the guy killed himself before the
Yeah.
end?
Oh, I still
mean,
want to know what happened with
almost-
Stephen Paddock
Almost
and the
all
Las
of them are
Vegas shooting.
targeted shootings.
Yeah.
You check.
I have
the
some
thing is, you
conspiracy
don't-
theories on that.
Yeah, yeah. You don't
should
take
start-
out the data just because of that. But anyway, yeah, I don't have any
Yeah.
last minute things. They just, yeah, no, I enjoyed the little chat with you guys. So this is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
joining us.
Yeah.
Welcome
Yeah,
to
we
the
look forward
team.
to
We're
doing
happy
it.
to have you.
Yeah.
Like we said at the start of the show, we've got Whitney joining the team here at CKZ. Just kind of frees us up a little bit. Maybe, you'll see 2 of us on one show. Maybe you'll see 3. Maybe you'll see 4. We just want to make sure that we're a little bit
Just
more
remember,
consistent.
if it bothers you, this isn't a podcast. It's just a bunch of dragons in a trench coat.
Dragons
No,
in
we
a
shouldn't
trench
be
coat.
here. We shouldn't be here, but there's no local news or talk or gossip, gab, whatever
And I
you
couldn't
wanna
find
call us.
any details on what I was trying to research today just because we got nothing to cover it.
But
Shout out to
we
those that are
decided-
trying. There are a few out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't
There's,
think of them off
there,
the top of my
I was
head.
gonna
There's a
say,
few
we know
trying.
that there's
Western
a few
Kansas
locals
News.
There you go, thank you.
Western
KSNN, I
Kansas
think it
News.
is.
KSSNNN 23.
Yep. Yeah.
They're doing a great job, getting involved as well. So we are. Wish it was 2 your show, Greg. But anyhow, we're happy to have Whitney on board here at CKZ. We do have some great stuff coming up for you over the next few weeks.
2 hour show. He meant 2
Oh,
hours.
Yeah,
2 hour show.
2 hour show. Yeah, boy.
Sometimes it feels like it could go that long.
Yeah, I wish we could go long. Maybe even do, a twice a week type of deal.
We
for
need to
you
find a
guys.
place where we can discuss things together in one location, and I think that those long form that would be
I'll talk
appropriate
with you
for
guys after.
for a long form
Yeah.
situation that way.
And if you want to see something like that happen, please stop by buymeacoffee.com/CKZ show and buy us a coffee. Be 50 cents, $1, $2, $10. One-time deal. There's no subscription type
Buy
thing.
me a
You
haircut.
can do that if you want to. Buy me a haircut.
I'll trim.
Whitney?
I don't need no haircut.
Oh, we're out. Bunch of long hairs running the show, hippies. Yeah, bunch of
How about
hippies.
that? I was like, I'm the only one with the mind up today.
All the hippies.
Hey, we'll get man buns going on, to piss off that. crowd,
Yes.
so.
All
Please
right.
let me know. We're doing
Oh,
buns
God.
tonight.
Absolutely, but we've got John Dole coming up. We have a family from the United Methodist Church to come talk to us about what's going on there in the Global Methodist Church. Just some crazy things going on. Speaking of churches, real quick, Fellowship Baptist Church here in Garden City was recently in the news for one of its members spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on their community credit card.
Okay, I remember this.
Or
Yeah.
their fellowship
I
card.
thought it was 10,000. I think it was just 10,000, wasn't it?
No, it was 106,000, 160,000.
I think
or
it was like
something that.
29 transactions and
Wait.
and over
A man of God was
No, it was more than
corrupted?
that.
more than that.
How?
Yeah. Tax the church, you have 106, I think it was 160,000. It was either 106 or 160,000. It was one of those two numbers, I'm pretty sure. But if you have that much money that can go
it was
missing over that many
100,000.
transactions,
Wow.
yeah, that many transactions, then
100
you have too much money.
162,000.
162,000 is what the total number was. Yeah, that's a lot of money. So.
Or 162
so much-
counts of theft. So we did it 100. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway.
that I want to look into that because I've heard a lot of theories. So that's interesting.
Yeah, so we'll be back to talk about that,
Some
and
conversation on it.
there's some bills that are being introduced and that are close to us and that we're keeping an eye on and watching. Again, this Saturday, Zach will be at the Legislative Coffee this Saturday at 10 p.m. from the Beth Tidrow
10
room.
a.m.
Stop by
10 a.m.
at 10 a.m. and have a little bit of breakfast and talk to your legislators and get involved in your community. Thank you again.
Thank you guys for joining
Like,
us. Appreciate you.
Share, subscribe.
Thank you for
See
being
you
true
next week.
believers. Thwip,
Bye.
thwip, thwip.
Bye.
Well, test. Better. We'll take a minute to envision it, in the wisdom deriving from a difference of opinion. Inquisitive, isn't it? When the picture in the mirror isn't shit, we give it a minute, fix this image and hit the bricks with the viciousness. But don't play, cause one day you'll be saying, you shoulda, coulda, woulda, but my shit it just wouldn't drop, cause you wouldn't have. But you're so worried, it was your world. And when you hit them with the rhymes, they had no words. Just come back to the flip of the tongue fun that you once had and chuck it like a beer and crush that. Go shave your mustache and write it down, cut that, and show 'em what's rap again. Oh, I'm getting tired of that. I don't know anymore what they call that. Getting so you know that something's missing. Let's go show 'em what rap is again. Like taking a step out of your front door for the first time and you want more with the sunshine, but you've been locked away, forgetting you don't care. Listen, it's not part of the mission. Just say what you got to say. Whether it makes sense, just a bunch of gibberish, bit from the hip, slipping so soft, but splitting your lip. You get a grip, cause as good as your shit is, you know it really isn't a big deal. Cause it'll turn heads bound too. It's your purpose, round two. But you gotta open your eyes and realize it's right here. To open your mind, you gotta try to fight fear and find a light bright enough to ignite and excite peers. But get their attention, I find. You gotta give them a big boom. You're the fuel, and I got my lighter right here. Oh, I'm getting tired of that. I don't know anymore what they call that. Getting so you know that something's missing. Let's go show 'em what rap is again.